Welcome to the latest Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Rob and Robbie here to react to the news. Robbie, the game has just finished 5 minutes ago. The Niners have beaten the Eagles. Now, immediately after the Seahawks beat the Niners in Week 18, I didn't think we'd be sat here tonight talking about the Niners playing the Seahawks again, because they just look like a broken team. And that's something we should talk about. But they have got some balls, Robbie. You know, the fact that they went over there to Philadelphia, other end of the country, and won that game the way that they did, with all of the, even more injuries today as a consequence of playing in that game. I think you have to, as much as it pains me to say this, you have to give Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, and those Niners players an absolute ton of credit. They're a team. And if there were any other team than the 49ers, Robbie, I'd probably be rooting for them if the Seahawks weren't in this thing. If I was like a fan of a random team that wasn't in the playoffs, I'd be thinking they deserve to keep going in this, like the way that they have played with all of these injuries. So credit to them, respect to the Niners. Before we get into sort of our thoughts on the fact that the Seahawks are going to play them again, quick reminder, subscribe if you haven't, like the video, and if you want to leave a comment, send it in to the super chat. Before I bring Robbie in, I do want to read this out. I have just had a tweet sent to me by a chap called Ryan. And I agree with him, and I feel it's an important point to make before we get into any discussion. He says, the one time I'd like to send out an APB to any Seahawks fan with a phone in their hand between now and the game, put the phone down, don't hit send, and let the game come and go. Don't run your mouth this week. Let the Hawks do the talking next Sunday. Whenever the Seahawks play the Niners, Robbie, there's this temptation for everybody to go a bit daft online and talk a big game and build it all up, and then it comes and bites Seattle on the backside when the game actually comes along. I think the point that Ryan makes there is a big one. Don't do that this week. Show respect. They deserve respect. It's going to be an interesting game. I don't think it's going to go exactly the same way as Week 18 went. But more importantly, as Ryan has said there, don't go shouting your mouth off this week. What's your reaction to the fact the Niners are coming to Seattle and the way that they beat the Eagles, Robbie?
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to lie. I was cheering for the Eagles. I'm not a big Niner fan. So for me, just big, big time hoping that they didn't win. But also, I think really it didn't matter to me. I knew it was going to be the Rams or the Niners, either one. And truth be told, I didn't want neither team. I would rather play a team we hadn't played this year. I think anytime you play a team for the third time, it really is anybody's game. I don't think it's, to expect the same results is going to be, I think it's a little naive to think that. So it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be a tough game. I'm going to fly out for it. So I'm excited to go out there and I hope there's just not a lot of gold and red in the stands, and it's more Seahawks. But listen, they deserve, what you just said is right. They deserve a lot of credit. They're playing really well with a bunch of backups, and they've been injured a lot. Kyle Shanahan is a phenomenal football coach. I mean, just phenomenal. And I guarantee they're going to come prepared and ready to play to us. So we gotta put on our A game, and hopefully, and luckily for us, we did have the week off, and hopefully we are well prepared for them as well. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a battle.
I can put everybody's minds at rest that I will not be at Lumen Field for the game, because the last two times I've been to Lumen Field, it was to watch the Seahawks lose to the 49ers. So I will not be there. So I'm doing my bit by not going to the game and being as far away from Seattle as I can possibly be. Robbie, the thing about this game is, you quite rightly say, the games are rarely carbon copies of each other. And I suspect that the Niners will not only have one drive in the whole game this time of any real substance that leads to an interception late on. I mean, they had one field goal against Seattle in Week 18, and that was it. But they've just lost George Kittle. That's another injury. Now, I don't think Kittle was anywhere near to 100% in Week 18 anyway, Robbie. So I think the fact that he's out, the thought of losing George Kittle typically would be, my word, that's a back-breaking loss for the Niners. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, because I don't think he's a huge part of their offense at the moment, because his health isn't there. But they will have Trent Williams next week. They didn't have him last week. And I've just got a feeling, Robbie, that they are going to be better and they're going to be buoyed by going to Philadelphia and winning. And this was something I talked about with Brian and Griff earlier today. It's off the back of week 18, you kind of think, I wouldn't mind playing those Niners again because Seattle dominated that game for 4 quarters. And really, it could have been anything, couldn't it? It could have been 30 points to 3 rather than 13 points to 3. But now the Niners have had an extra game. Now they've had a week where they've gone on the road and they've built some confidence by knocking off the defending champions. That switches things just a little bit, doesn't it? But then on the other hand, I think the Eagles are just not good. They have been bad for the second half of this season, Robbie. They came into the playoffs, I think, on a 3-4 run, including a 3-game losing streak towards the end of the year. The Eagles were all over the place. And I'm not particularly surprised that they have lost to whoever they were going to play in this first round, short of the Panthers, because they're not a very good football team this year. They're just not organized and they're not well led.
Yeah. And like, I think I just saw somebody say it in the comments about stopping McCaffrey, and that's like their offense. And we did a really good job shutting them down. And like you said with the Eagles too, like they just don't look the same. I mean, Saquon went down early, or not early, but I saw him go down in the game as well. And it just didn't look right all around. Listen, I think
aren't they?
They just don't look good. Yeah, they don't look like the defending champs. That's for sure.
Do you know when they were at their best? They had real, genuine leadership, Robbie. You know, with Kelsey at the center, and Lane Johnson wasn't playing today, and they'd have Fletcher Cox. You know, they'd have Brandon Graham. He came out of retirement, but he's past the peak of his powers. You know, they had a core that was somewhat similar to Seattle's core right now. It's veteran players who were, you know, are really respectful and are driving this thing forwards. And they've kind of replaced that veteran leadership that was hard-nosed and was really challenging to play against with people like Jalen Hurts, who just are a bit weird, and A.J. Brown, who is all over the place. He's arguing with his head coach. He seems to spend the whole season like throwing his toys out of the pram. You've got Jalen Carter as like a significant part of the identity of your team now. And we all know that that's not what you want. You know, you want him to be the last person who's at the forefront of your team. He needs to be led by other people, not be the one doing the leading. Like, they don't have any real men, do they? They don't have any real leaders on that team anymore like they used to. And it showed today.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni. They just hate each other for some reason. I've never seen a head coach and a wide receiver argue so much. He's getting traded in the offseason, guaranteed. There's no way.
Yes.
There's no way. There's no way he's staying on that team. Like, I do not understand what the hell happened there, but they just look like they just do not like each other at all. But yeah, that's a mess of a team. And as you're right, they have no real leadership. But going back to the Niners, I think this is going to be it's not going to be a carbon copy of this last game that we had. I think it's going to be a lot tougher. I think they're going to come well ready to play. I think they're actually probably going to put some points up on the board. Really, it's going to come down to the offense, but that's going to be the same thing. I feel like any team that we would play with. Like, I watched a little bit today. You know, your pod with Griffin and Brian, and I was just thinking, like, man, like, a lot of this fear talking about, I don't really want to play the Rams, but honestly, if we go back and look, I mean, Sam Darnold threw 6 interceptions against the Rams. 6. I mean, just think about one game. In one game, we almost won. He threw 4. So, like, the fear there is like real, but it's also like we can beat those guys, and we could have beaten them twice. I wonder if the Niners have the same thing, think the same thing about us. Like, do they think, well, we can beat those guys? Like, you know, we were playing really terrible, and they could have put 30 on us and didn't. Well, they only put 13. It's possible, but I think it's going to be a tough divisional game in the playoffs. Of course, how sweet is it though to beat the Niners in the playoffs, to send them home? It's sweet, right? I want that.
I desperately want that too, Robbie. That would be delightful. It would be an amazing thing. But I genuinely, I am confident. Like, I think there's the problem you get with this, and I don't think any of us have. I don't want to speak for everybody else. Actually, I'll just speak for myself. I kind of forgot what it's like to be the number 1 seed, and in the past it was. You would kind of sit there, Robbie, thinking, okay, you know, in 2013, 2014, there were 2 buys for a start. So 2 teams wouldn't play this weekend, or 4 in total if you include the AFC. So 4 teams are kind of sitting back and letting the others, it'd be over by now. There'd be sort of 2 games on the Sunday. We'd know what the playoff picture was. And typically, the chances are that you would play a not too challenging team in that first week of the playoffs. And for Seattle in 2013, it was the Saints. They already hammered the Saints. I think we all went into that game thinking they would hammer them again. It ended up being a one-score game because of a bit of nonsense at the end of the game. But the Seahawks handled the business and beat the Saints. And then they went to the NFC Championship game to play the game we all expected against the Niners. And then the following year, they played the Panthers. And again, I don't think any of us were really fearing the Panthers in the divisional round in the 2014 season. The Seahawks had gone on that epic unbeaten run. They looked like the best team in football. They were probably as healthy as anybody was going into the playoffs. And you fully expected them to beat the Panthers, Robbie, and then you knew it was going to be the Packers in the NFC Championship game after that. I was really fearful of playing the Cowboys that year because I'd been to Seattle and watched the Cowboys run all over Seattle and dominate Seattle and win that game. So that was another of my famous trips to Lumen Field to watch them lose. And I didn't want to watch the Cowboys do that again. So I was quite happy that it was the Packers. But then sort of 3 quarters in, you're thinking, why did I ever want to play this Aaron Rodgers and this team? And of course, the rest is history with regards to that game. This year feels very different. Like watching these games, I've kind of like flip-flopped numerous times, Robbie, about who do I actually want to play? Like, there's pros to playing the Rams first versus potentially second. There's cons to playing the Rams. Same with the Niners. Same with if it had been the Packers. Like I was watching the Packers yesterday and sort of celebrating a little bit as they went 21-3 up, but then wondering, do I want the Packers to play this well and then have to come to Seattle, having watched them destroy the Seahawks last week? Like I then started fearing the Packers a little bit until they imploded, and then I was kind of hoping that they would hang on against the Bears because I thought we could beat them, Robbie. So it's been like a roller coaster ride of who do I actually want to play this weekend? And really the true answer is the only one that you could have felt really, truly confident about was the Panthers. And you needed the Bears, the Eagles, and the Panthers to win to play them. And that was never going to happen. So, one of those teams was going to lose. And they did. And if they were playing the Panthers next weekend, we'd have all felt extremely confident. Whereas instead now, there'll be some bravado from some people, I'm sure, who are saying there's no chance that the Niners are going to win. I just, again, hope everybody avoids all of that stuff. I don't want to hear that. That worries me when people start talking that way. I'd rather be respectful. I'd rather sort of look ahead to this game and accept that it's going to be a challenge, that in any given game, Robbie, Kyle Shanahan can outcoach you. Kyle Shanahan, that trick play today that had Juwan Jennings throwing it into the end zone. Like, I think he knew they needed one or two things to go their way, where they pinched points or stole possessions, whatever it was going to be, and they got one with that play. And they may well have a trick or two up their sleeve next week because they'll feel like they've got to do the same thing again. We've got to be ready for it. And on offense, we've got to do exactly what we did last week, which was run the ball down their throat and control things and beat them up in the trenches. But it's very hard to do that twice. So I'll be confident going into this game, Robbie, but not taking anything for granted. And I don't think anybody else should be either.
No, I agree. I mean, it's, you want to be confident as a team, and, I don't think there's anything lacking confidence here. I think any team we play, you got to have confidence in. We're the number 1 seed for a reason, right? We've earned that right to be the number 1 seed. So we need to take credit in that and be confident that we're the team that it runs through Seattle, right? That's what we wanted. We want it to come through Seattle. We want you to come to our house and try to beat us. We're the number 1 seed. So we're going to be confident. That being said, anything can happen in the playoffs. And I think that's, then you get to a point, right? You're right here. You're 2 games away, 2 games away. And I think the nerves get up there and you're kind of on edge, and you want it. You're right there, and you just got to have it. And it's going to be there, man. It's going to be there no matter who we play. Doesn't matter who we play. Honestly, it really doesn't. The nerves are going to be there. If we were playing the Niners or the Panthers, I got to be honest with you, I don't think I'd probably feel the same way. Just for any reason, just because you never know, anything can happen in the playoffs.
I stress watched the last Niners game. I was possibly as anxious about that game, Robbie, as I have been in a many a year. Probably the last NFC Championship game, frankly, that we played in, and that was over 10 years ago. And I know that next weekend will be exactly the same. I'm just going to be a mess during that game. I think I posted 1,000 comments on Seahawks Draft Blog comment section during the game just to try and let out some of that anxiety. Like I was kicking and throwing every ball, making every tackle, because it was that kind of day that was so important that the Seahawks won. I thought so anyway. And even though it was in pretty much control, it was never totally out of control on the scoreline, which kind of made it close. And I think there's a good chance that they will win next week and they will assert their dominance because they are, at the moment, touch wood, healthier than the Niners are. Like they've got more. The Niners are down to the bare bones. And when you think about when we were in Seattle in week 1, Robbie, and if we were walking to that stadium and we were having a conversation about the ways that the Niners were going to win, you would be talking about Nick Bosa having a hell of a game. You'd be talking about Christian McCaffrey dominating. You would talk about maybe George Kittle always plays well against Seattle and stuff like that. And at the minute, McCaffrey is not, whether that is because teams are just taking the runaway or whether it's something to do with McCaffrey's just lost a bit of something there or whether he's playing hurt, whatever it is, he does not look like a dominant force at the moment. Kittle's not going to be playing next weekend. Nick Bosa's not playing. Fred Warner's not playing. And even when you watch Brock Purdy today, Robbie, he's still thrown 2 really bad interceptions. Like he's always got that in his locker. He ended the season playing very efficiently and very well, very explosively. And yet he's shown again in this game that he will turn the ball over or risk turnovers. You've got to be ready for that. You've got to be opportunistic. He didn't really give Seattle much in week 18. I wonder if that's going to be one of the big differences, Robbie, where they played it maybe a little bit safe in that first game. Is Kyle Shanahan going to say to his quarterback, do you know what? We're going to be, we're not going to win this game if we try and make it a trenches and a kicking contest. What we need to do is we need to make big plays. And I wonder if he's going to test Seattle, whether he's going to get Brock Purdy, trying to make some plays downfield, trying to get on the move, trying to make some explosive things happen, because I'm not sure they can win playing, running the ball, punting, kicking, stuff like that, because Seattle just own them playing that way. They have got to try and make this a different game. They've got to make it a shootout. I just don't know if they can do that, but they have to make it a Bears-Niners style shootout, Robbie, because I don't think their defense and their trenches will be able to match up to Seattle, at least based on the evidence of week 18.
No, I totally agree, but I hope they try that because I know our defense will be ready for that. Our defense is legit. It's one of the best defenses in the league. And the more that they try to run silly things, the more things are going to happen. Interceptions, fumbles, we're going to get key takeaways in moments like that. So I hope they try that. I'm all for it.
The other thing I wanted to mention is DVOA is something like, I'm not a big analytics person, Robbie, and I think there's a place for it, but without a doubt, in the league. And I think it should influence certain decision making within coaching. I just think online it just becomes a bit tiresome at times, the never ending conversation, and the fact that Greg Olson turns every broadcast into an analytics debate. That just bores me a little bit. But DVOA, I think, is genuinely useful, and it can kind of show you who are the good, really good teams, and it can validate certain teams, and it can show you who's maybe a bit of a mirage. And when I look at DVOA, Seattle was number 1 for DVOA. They ended the season number 1, and the Rams were number 2. And that kind of feels, I mean, like you could mix those two around. I mean, they're very close. Like Seattle's DVOA is 41.2, and the Rams is 39.9. So there's 1.5% between the two teams. Like it really is probably the Seattle special teams which creates the difference there. If the Rams were not useless at special teams, the Rams would be number 1 and Seattle would be number 2. But because of Seattle's special teams, they're ahead of the Rams. There is then a significant gap to the rest. Funnily enough, the Detroit Lions were 3rd, and then it was Houston, and then it was Indianapolis, and then it was Jacksonville, and then it was Denver, and then it was Buffalo. That all kind of makes sense to me. I think when you watch those teams, because different schedules are harder and stuff like that. And that kind of that does make a degree of sense to where they are. The Colts are really good until they lost a quarterback and a couple of other players. So them being 5th is not that shocking. So the Niners were 10th. The Packers were 11th. So the way I sort of look at this, Robbie, is if I was rooting to play the Packers yesterday, who were 11th, shouldn't be that mad about playing the Niners, who are 10th. Like they are very similar teams. So San Fran's total DVOA was 9.9, and Green Bay's was 9.8. They're pretty much the same team, and funnily enough, both have similarities in terms of a ton of injured players, a quarterback who can do good things but also turn the ball over. They're very, very, very similar. So I think the Niners and Green Bay were very similar. If you'd have ended up playing the Carolina Panthers, that would have been ideal because they were 25th per DVOA between the Commanders and the Dolphins. So that would have been a real benefit to play them. Chicago was 16th. You couldn't play them because they were the number 2 seed, and you couldn't play Philly, who were 13th. So if your choices realistically were Rams, who were the second best team per DVOA, the Niners, who were 10th, and Green Bay, who were 11th, what that tells me, Robbie, is you just didn't want to play the Rams. If you just want to focus on that, you want to avoid the Rams. And they have done. So now it's up to the Rams to go and beat the Fighting Ben Johnsons over in Chicago. That may or may not happen. The ideal scenario, I think, Robbie, is to win next week, Seattle, that is, and then play the 16th best team per DVOA in Chicago in the NFC Championship game. That doesn't sound that bad.
No, and not if you're going off that. Again, my only take on that is like DVOA ratings are obviously pretty good. My only thing together, it's just you can't take in consideration when you play a team for the third time and someone that you know really well. That's the only difference. But again, I'm not trying to be scared of the Niners or scared of playing, but like if going off stats, yeah, like I wanted to play the Packers. I actually thought I went to bed last night at halftime. We're playing the Packers. Woke up this morning, it was like, whoa, there's no way. And of course, the Bears had come back. So I'm going off those stats. Yeah, that's what you would want to do and go off and play the Niners instead of the Rams. But gonna have to go through a good team at some point.
I would have been really concerned about playing the Rams. Like I genuinely would have been. I just think they beat us up so well. And as I keep saying, this is my favorite phrase at the moment, Robbie. I always prefer the path of least resistance. You don't have like this idea that you have to beat the best to be the best is not strictly true in sport. Sometimes other teams can beat the best, and then you don't have to play them. Like that is just the truth. Like if the Panthers had have won, and if the Rams were your biggest threat, and I think if you polled Seahawks fans before the playoffs, who is the biggest threat in the NFC, I think 95% would have said the Rams probably. And you don't, if they lose to the Panthers, you don't have to play them. That doesn't mean that, like, if you end up playing the Panthers in the division round, just go, oh, I don't know, the Panthers are the new Rams. Like, you wouldn't do that. You'd be like, no, that's great. They beat the Rams. I fully expect to beat the Panthers, and then we don't have to play the Rams. And if that happens this way, if the Bears can outgun Matt Stafford next week, then if you beat the Niners, then that sets up a more appealing. This is not to take anything for granted with the Bears, because the Bears, it doesn't matter. They could be 30 points down in the fourth quarter, and you wouldn't bet against them coming back. I mean, like, it seems like Caleb Williams gives in the DNGAF mode at the end of the game, and everything suddenly starts working. Like, as soon as he stops thinking and just starts launching the ball all over the field, he suddenly looks like Mahomes. So that would be the ideal path through, but you've got to win next week first. One thing I have picked up on, Robbie, which I wonder if you've got a thought on, because I've been talking a bit about this. Have you noticed how many teams are going for it on fourth down all of the time during these playoffs? And there's been a big sort of conversation, usually led by Greg Olson, that never kick and all of this stuff. And there are people online who think you should never kick and you should always go for it. I think the playoffs have shown, Robbie, that's a load of bollocks. Like, there's just been so many teams going for it on fourth down, like leaving points off the board, turning the ball over on halfway, totally surrendering field position. I get that. I get why they sort of argue sometimes in midfield, going for it, converting, continuing a drive, trying to score points yourself is better than field position, especially if you then kick the ball to the 10-yard line or the 20-yard line and the other team just marches downfield and scores a touchdown. I get all of that, Robbie. But there is a point of field position. Field position does matter because it is just harder to go 90, 80 yards. And I think sometimes if the other team does that, you have to take your hat off and go, well, fair play. Like, especially in the playoffs, these are tight, close games. Every single game has been close. Every point has mattered. Look at the Packers missing an extra point and missing a field goal. Like, they needed that field goal or that extra point to still be in the playoffs today. And sort of snubbing 3 points or taking it for granted, oh, no, we don't want 3. We want to go and score touchdowns all the time, going for it. I think it's been totally exposed in this playoff, Robbie. I think that's just an absolute nonsense thing that the internet has kind of come up with. And I do think people in the NFL are getting carried away with it. in the broadcasts and in the coaching rooms. Like Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell just go for it all of the time. I don't think it helps their team, Robbie. They have good football teams. There's nothing wrong with playing the percentages. There's nothing wrong with taking 3 when it's on offer. And I really hope the Seahawks continue to resist this when they begin their playoff campaign next week. I don't want to go for it all the time, Robbie. You have a great defense. You have good special teams. Your offense is capable. I don't want to see them going for it on 4th down all of the time. I'm happy to kick field goals and kick punts when needed.
Yeah, so I mean, you just said it right there. That we have the defense to back it up, right? You punt it and make them go 80-some, 90-some yards. That's much different with our defense than maybe some of these other teams, right? So for me, I mean, I get why they're doing it. I agree. I don't want to see that for the Seahawks, and I think that's why we're winning a lot of more games. I do want them to take the chance when we have it. If we're an opportunity to put 7 instead of 3 on the board, I'd like to see them maybe try. But it also depends on the scenario. I think a lot of these coaches too are offensive-minded coaches that you're talking about, whereas we have a defensive-minded head coach. That changes things a little bit as well. And he's trusting his defense to make plays, get turnovers, putting them in a position to get better field position back. And as you just said, field position is huge. I'm also a big fan of taking points. I don't remember who it was that said you never kick field goals, but stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, you take the points. You take the points. If you can get them, you take the points.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't think it's exclusive to Greg Olsen, but he has said that. I mean, he was saying it during the Vikings Seahawks game when the Seahawks were like 16-0 up, and field goals will get you beat. And it's like 16-0, Greg, and they're playing a rookie undrafted free agent at quarterback. I don't think field goals are going to get Seattle beat today. So anyway, yes. So people are wondering. There's no announcement yet on whether the game will be on Saturday or Sunday. But people are on Twitter are saying that it is going to be announced at some point during the next game. So I'd keep your eyes peeled online for news as to whether this is going to be a Saturday game or a Sunday game. Do you have a preference, Robbie, personally, or do you have a preference in terms of what might benefit the Seahawks the most? I would suggest that a short week and playing on Saturday night might be best for the Seahawks, because then the Niners have got another quick turnaround and you've had a week off.
Well, I mean that, and then selfishly, I just want the game to be sooner because I'm flying out on Friday. So if I can get there and get the game on Saturday, that'd be sweet. So makes it easier for getting home as well. But yeah, I think you're right on with the point of a shorter week for the Niners, and I think that benefits us. Yeah. So let's take a Saturday.
And they play later. They're going to play later on the Saturday, so you don't have to worry about sort of timings. I always feel like you're better off playing a night game in Seattle for me. I know that they've not had some amazing night games in prime time in Seattle over the last few years, but I'm kind of wanting to believe that a corner has been turned in that regard. So yeah, I'm voting for the late Saturday game as it being best for the Seahawks. But we'll see. Like if it was Sunday, I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world. We've got one super chat. If you want to send one in, please do. Great watching live numbers. So really appreciate you all checking us out. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Because the longest Seattle, this is the other thing, Robbie. I feel like we've got such an opportunity to have some fantastic streams and do some cool things over the next few weeks if they get to the Super Bowl. And I don't want to miss out on all of that. Like, it'll be really sad if they don't do it. Josh says, getting the 4 seed looks good this year. I'd much rather play the Bears over the 49ers. I think the Rams will blow them out. Okay. Let's have a quick chat about that game.
I mean, it's interesting. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold in Chicago. I don't know. I don't think
anyone's blowing the Bears out this year.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be blowing the Bears out in the fourth quarter, and then it will end in a close game, because that's what the Bears do. Whenever you think the Bears are going to get blown out, they come storming back in the fourth quarter. Like, I would never, ever... Robbie, if we play the Bears in the NFC Championship game, if it was 30 points to 7, I would be on the edge of my seat in the fourth quarter. Fearing... I would be like, come on, get a stop, all the way through it. Because I don't... they're just like a buzzsaw, the Bears. When they start going, it's like a snowball, and you just can't stop them. They've just done it so many times. It's not just 1 or 2 games where they've kind of pulled off some miracle comeback. It's like 7 games now. Like they just don't know when they're beaten. And there are flaws on that team. Like the left tackle went off with a season-ending injury. I think one of their defensive players, if I'm not mistaken, got a bad injury yesterday as well. They do not have an amazing pass rush. Their defense is only okay. I mean, the Niners had great joy against their defense. It was awful, but they have Caleb Williams, and when Caleb Williams has some really odd moments. I get some terrible interceptions early in that game yesterday, but he's also just got an arm. Like if this was like a computer game, Robbie, and he had like a potential rating out of 100, like his physical potential is like a 97, 98. Like it's as good as it gets. Like what he can do with that fourth down conversion that he had yesterday is just insane that a human being can make a throw like that. Like it's crazy. It's a trick shot. It's like throwing a half-court shot. Like it's unbelievable. But they do have a susceptible defense, and they do have, like I say, some of those issues with him turning the ball over early in games. I don't think the Rams are going there to blow the Bears out. I don't see that happening at all. I'd probably fancy the Bears to win, Robbie. I think they will put points on the board against this Rams defense. And I think it's going to be up to Matt Stafford and co to keep up. I think they will give it a hell of a game. I think it'll be close. But I think the Bears have just got something. They've just got a bit of magic about them at the minute. And that home crowd are in there. And the coach, the way that he does his kind of rather strange, over-the-top post-game speeches. I just think the Bears there is something happening there. I think they're going to win next week against the Rams.
Yeah, and I'll say this: when I watch the Rams play the Panthers, I look at them and I'm like, how is this team that just felt like we were struggling against them so hard in both games? Like they just don't look super good. Like I mean, I'm not saying they look bad, but they don't look as dominant as they looked when we played them this last time, where they put up 500 some yards and scored a bunch of points. They just don't look like that team. So I'm with you. I think the Bears can I think the Bears can legit beat the Rams. I do, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams won too. I just think it's going to be a toss up, but I don't think the Rams are going to go in there and blow them out by any means.
No, I fancy the Bears. Like I said, there's just something there with them, and they'd be a scary. I think they'd be a scary opponent for Seattle if it gets to that stage, Robbie, because they can just put points on the board, and we have seen teams like, let's not pretend. We all think Seattle's defense is really good. But the Buccaneers put a ton of yards and points on Seattle, and so did the Rams. And some other teams have moved the ball well on Seattle. And Ben Johnson I think he's a bit strange, a bit of an oddball, lacks a little bit of class with some of his things that he did yesterday. But he can coach and he asks questions. And clearly Detroit and their very high octane, score a load of points, really creative offense that they had when he was there has just gone to Chicago, and the Lions aren't in the playoffs now without him. So he's clearly got something about him. I think that would be a really difficult game, but something to consider for the future. I think the Bears will beat the Rams. Do you know what I've just realized, Robbie, is that by sort of being sort of modest and respectful, and people are going to accuse us of being negative, aren't they? Because people legitimately want us just to come on and go, the Seahawks are going to wipe the floor of the Niners next week. The Seahawks are going to do this. The Seahawks are going to do that. I just don't think that's the way to be this week, is it? I think we're handling this the right way. I think sort of modesty and respect and sort of not assuming anything about this team, especially, Robbie, because the Seahawks have got a lot of positives, but they also have some flaws as well, like all of the teams who are left in the playoffs.
For sure. I mean, starts at the quarterback position, right? He's got to play flawless throughout the playoffs, and he makes me nervous. If I'm being honest, he does. But I also have a vision in my head where he just like holding up a Lombardi as well. So it's possible.
No, it will be so good. I keep sort of catching myself, Robbie, just daydreaming about just even being in the Super Bowl again. I just think there's just such an opportunity there, because it's a wide open season, and like typically, I don't know what you thought. Like in the previous years, Mahomes and the Chiefs will get into the Super Bowl every year, and you kind of thought, God, even if you built a really good team and you had a brilliant quarterback, there's always a chance that you just run into the Chiefs at some point, and Mahomes would just beat you. Like there's been two excellent Niners teams who've got to Super Bowls with legit blue chip talent, a top coach who most years, Robbie, would have been worthy Super Bowl champs and probably would have won. And Mahomes has just pulled off miraculous endings in both games to win. Like it was like even when the Niners put together an unbelievable loaded roster, they couldn't beat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Now Mahomes has lost a couple of Super Bowls. I get that. But you were constantly sort of thinking, how do you win one of these things in this era? Like it's going to be really difficult. And yet here we are in this era still with no Mahomes, no Lions, no Lamar and the Ravens, no Joe Burrow, none of these players. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, the defending champions, are out now. Like the Niners are banged up. The Rams are really good, but their defense has struggled a bit recently. You look in the AFC, the AFC does not look, famous last words, the AFC may well go and win the Super Bowl. They don't look as strong as the NFC, Robbie. And you have 2 home games now, 2 home games to get to a Super Bowl. What an opportunity this is. Like, these don't come around that often. This is an amazing chance. And if they just get back to the Super Bowl, we can spend 2 weeks just listening to everything and talking about everything. And you can just go to work on a Monday with a smile on your face, knowing that you've got that big game to look forward to in 2 weeks. And man, and just sort of going through that whole experience again of the Seahawks being in a Super Bowl would be just truly fantastic. And it's a really likable team as well, Robbie. Like I think one of the challenging things sometimes is when you kind of have a Super Bowl team that's your team, that if it wasn't very likable, and there have been teams that have got there that you think, oh, they'd be difficult to love, even if they were your team. And there's nothing remotely unlikable about the Seahawks team. I don't even think our biggest rivals find us that annoying. I think they just have like a degree of respect for Mike McDonald. Like people were annoyed by Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, weren't they? They found him a bit cheesy and they found Pete just a bit too much. But everyone kind of respects Mike McDonald and everyone respects the way that this team is built. Everyone seems to like Sam Darnold, even if they don't necessarily believe in him, they kind of like him. There's just so many reasons there, Robbie, to hope that this team could get to that point. And if they do get to the Super Bowl, it'd probably be a 50-50 game, whoever they play.
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching the Buffalo Bills versus the Jacksonville Jaguars today as well. And I just found myself rooting for Josh Allen and the Bills. I don't know why. I just like that's just a franchise that, if you said earlier, if there was a team, if Seattle wasn't in it, you might be fancying yourself rooting for the Niners just because of their story. But the Bills are one of those teams, man. I want it for them at some point. Like not this year. Obviously, I want the Seahawks to win, but if the Seahawks weren't in it, the Bills would be the team that I'd be like, I'd want that.
I completely agree with that. Yeah, I think if the Seahawks don't win it, I'd like the Bills to win it because they're a difficult team to dislike because Allen seems quite likable and the fans, as they say, have been through a lot. They're kind of like a blue collar, like old school franchise. And I can remember they won a playoff game. I think it might have been Josh Allen's first playoff win. And all of the fans were like in the snow as the plane landed out there. And you kind of thought, God, it really does mean something to him to win a playoff game. So that would be nice. But I'll park that thought for now because the Seahawks are still in the playoffs and they're the team that I desperately want to see. I'd love to see them play Josh Allen and the Bills. That would be that would feel like a game that would be enjoyable to watch. To see Josh Allen against this Seahawks team and this defense. So let's run through these other super chats. This one says, I'm a bartender and I've missed the best games of the year so far because they were on Saturdays. Please, God. He's praying there. Well, I hope whatever you're hoping for, I hope you get what you're looking for there. Sentient Sandwich, which is a great name and a great avatar. Thank you for that. This one here from the Warhammer guy. Road to Super Bowl is now offensive teams with questionable defenses. I feel like this really benefits us matchup-wise. Mike, the Guru Slayer's time is now. That's a good point, Robbie, there, because the old cliche that defense wins championships, we've not seen any really good defensive play so far. Like we've seen flashes from maybe the Jaguars for a time earlier today. Apart from that, we've not seen a good defense. And I'm tempted to, when like the Texans play on Monday and the Broncos play next week and the Seahawks play next week, it's going to be interesting to see how those games go when actually legit defenses take the field.
Yeah, I mean, I was about ready to say that, right? I mean, the Jags were the only other team right now. The Texans play on Monday, right? And they have a legit defense. So, I mean, there's some defensive left, but it'll be interesting to see how next week goes for sure.
More super chats. This one from CCW. I'm fine tempering the enthusiasm. We've all had our hopes crushed before, so no reason to get it too high today. Let's beat for San Francisco and go from there. Thanks, Rob and Robbie. Go Hawks. Thank you for that. I think the
Just
other
got
thing
confirmation George Kittle tore his Achilles.
yeah. I like George Kittle. I've always liked George Kittle, even when he was beating us every week. I don't know what your take is, Robbie, but I liked him pre-draft and wanted us to draft him. I think a lot of people did. I was a bit surprised they didn't draft him. And then I think some of the testing you could kind of work out. I think we did sort of looked at the numbers and understood why they maybe didn't rush to the podium in that instance, and that was a mistake by the Seahawks and many other teams. But did you see like the thing? One of the reporters last week said to him, "How do you feel about the Seahawks smoking cigars in the locker room and celebrating? We can hear them now." And George Kittle just went, "Good for them. I'd be doing exactly the same thing. Like they've won a big game.
Yeah.
I just hope we get to play him again." And that was like, wow, that's a really respectful answer. And he just seems like a normal person. Like there's so many of these NFL players don't feel like normal people. George Kittle feels like the kind of bloke that if you bumped into him in a bar on holiday, you could probably have a few beers with him and have a decent night.
Yeah. The only thing I dislike about him is probably because I only see it when he does it against this stupid drop thing. Every time he gets a first down, it just pisses me off.
Yeah.
But no, he seems like a good dude.
So sad for him because he's 33 in October. So when you get an injury like that, it does sort of make you wonder if we'll never see George Kittle back to his absolute best again. I mean, look, different players recovered differently to all sorts of injuries. Like we all thought Christian McCaffrey might be done 18 months ago, and he's played a very good season this year. So you can never count a player like, if there was anybody like George Kittles and the Max Crosbys and the Christian McCaffreys, they're the kind of players who will just do whatever it takes in recovery. So I suspect we probably will see him back next season and playing well. But that's not the kind of way that you want somebody like that to go out if that's indeed what's going to happen there. But he's still got years on his side. And he's not 36. Jeff says, thanks for excellent coverage again this year. I may have missed you already saying, but are you going to the game, Rob? I promise not to blame you if you go and we lose. I'm not going to go, Jeff. It's very tempting, and I must admit there was a part of me that had a little look to see how much the flights were going to cost. They were a lot more expensive than the previous sort of 3 times I've flown out to Seattle, so I kind of made the call there and then that I'll just watch this at home. But Robbie, even if they were dirt cheap, I have to say I'm not overly superstitious. And people say, "Well, you obviously are because you're admitting to this." But every time I go and watch them play, the Seahawks lose, and I don't really want to risk that, Robbie. Like I'm better off just going to the regular season games that don't matter, like the early regular season games. Like that's fine for me, and then maybe we can end this jinx somehow. But until that happens, I'm a little bit. I don't want to be. Sort of creating any bad juju going into this game.
So what I need you to do is not go to the game, and then I need you to carry that little yellow football or whatever you have.
This
you need that.
This will be close by.
That will be close by. Yeah, I need that as well.
BC Lions subway ball.
But I will give you credit. You are allowed to go to any baseball game with me because you turned the Mariners season around when you went with me. So
I know. Well, look, I just. Again, I just really want the Seahawks to get there, and if that means I have to celebrate from 5,000 miles away, then so be it. That's something I'll just take on the chin. The almighty Dagger says, "I want to first say congratulations to the Winers. A great game against a terrible offense, but the belt is ready to beat the Winers' arse, and I'll be the biggest Bears fan next weekend." That's the other point I think, Robbie, of playing Saturday night, because I'm guessing they wouldn't play both NFC games on the Saturday. So if you play Saturday, you get an extra day rest, and then you also get to watch the other game knowing you're already in the NFC Championship game. That's a good feeling. Like we've had that feeling before, like watching the other game and seeing who you're going to play is better than watching the other game and then sort of waiting for your game the next day. Well, because you'd also have like a few hours of everybody saying, "Oh, the Rams are amazing," or "The Bears are amazing," and as we've seen with the media this year, they don't need any excuse, do they, to praise the Rams? Like that's just a natural default position for them.
Yeah. If we had the opportunity to play Saturday and then the Bears and Rams played on Sunday, and it's an extra day, extra time off. You get to relax, watch the game. I already know you're going to be in the NFC Championship game. That's a really good feeling. I would definitely take that. For some reason, I have a gut feeling we're going to play on Sunday, though.
Who would you have raising the flag for this game? I think you've got to go big for this. Like, I know they've been doing like a big sort of the top 50 celebrations, but can you coax a Marshawn up those stairs? And
it'd be sick.
I mean, they're playing and he is famous for the videos going around saying F the Niners. Like, if you needed somebody to get up there and hype that stadium up, Robbie,
that's a really good call.
That'd be an amazing call, wouldn't it? Right, the only other one that could perhaps
someone just said
well, no, I was going to say that the only other one that I think you could probably go with there is Pete Carroll. But is he going to be rushing back to Seattle like after just being fired and raising a flag and acting like everything? And he probably doesn't want to do that. I don't think he'd want to do that, Robbie, like, because it's all gone wrong in Vegas. Like, is he going to want to come back and go from like trying to turn the Raiders around to raising a flag before his old team? I don't see that. Another suggestion could be Mike Holmgren. I don't think Holmgren's done it, has he? So, and I don't know whether he'd ever want to do it. I don't know if maybe there's a reason why he hasn't done it so far. I don't think Mike Holmgren has done it. So that could be another one that lifts absolutely gets it going. People are saying Richard Sherman. I mean, that'd be a good one because of the tip and everything like that. I mean, that'd get it going. But I tell you, Marshawn is just, if you can't get hyped for Marshawn at raising that flag. And the other thing, Robbie, is if they were playing the Rams, there'd be no danger of this being a major home advantage. Like, there were very few Rams fans at the Thursday night football game. But you do have a lot of red in the stadium when the Niners come. Like, the Seahawks fans have got to, like, I just plead. There are a lot of them in the expensive seats who own the season tickets in the, in the front sort of middle section, who have those. Please, just, I know you can probably make a lot of money from selling your tickets for this game, but can you find a way to sell them to some Seahawks fans? Like, can you find a way to make sure that they don't go to Niners followers? Because we need all hands on deck for this.
Yeah. Well, I'm not selling them, first of all.
No, you're doing your bit. Yeah. There's a lot of people we know that.
There is a we did get like there's something on 12th Man Rising where I didn't get the email, but there was an email out that said, like, if you sold a certain amount of tickets, like, and didn't go to the game, you could get like kicked off, whatever. They want you to go to the games. Also, sorry, just real fast, Rob. I had to look this up because I thought this was true. Holmgren did raise the 12th man flag. Yeah, he did it October 31st against the Jaguars. It was to celebrate his induction to the Ring of Honor. So, okay, yeah. I was at that game, so I was like, I feel like he did. I do like someone had said Cam Chancellor. I think that's another good one.
Cam's done it though, hasn't he? I think
still be sick.
I mean, it would be good. It's just imagine though, like, if they said Marshawn's raising the top. I don't know, because Marshawn's, you'd never quite tell whether that's something he'd ever want to do. Like, he's a bit too cool for school sometimes, old Marshawn. But like, that would be all you have to do is raise a flag and then go and hype the crowd up, man. Like, could you get him to do it? Like, is there a bag of Skittles out there big enough to convince him to get up them stairs and go and do that? A lot of people are pointing out that Brian has got the ticket exchange at Hawk Blogger. I would definitely suggest using that if you can. Or maybe just go into the game. There's a novel idea. Like, if you have those expensive season tickets and you've been selling them off for just go along this time. It's not a regular season game. Were you at the NFC Championship game, Robbie, against the Niners 2013?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How much was that stadium? What percent of that was Niners fans, would you guess?
Maybe 10-15%.
Okay. See, that's acceptable, isn't it? That one in the world.
I mean, there was a lot of Seahawks fans. It was packed.
So when we went in week one, what would you say, about 20%, 30%? 25, 30?
Maybe like 25, 30, yeah.
And the Thursday night game that I went to on Thanksgiving, I'd say was maybe 50-50. It was that bad. 60-40 maybe. Like it was really bad. But the Niners were really good and the Seahawks weren't. So that's probably a part of the reason for that. So hopefully it's not. I want you to report back next week, Robbie, and let us know how many Niners fans have managed to squeeze in there. But yeah, the team did put a threatening note out saying basically if you do this, you might lose your season tickets. But we'll see whether they're actually going to do that or not. I mean, it's quite a thing. The Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites for the game. The Rams are 4.5-point favorites against the Bears. It's quite interesting, Robbie, isn't it, that the NFC West had two 12-win teams and a 14-win team, and last year in the obviously this was like the NFC North, wasn't it? Because I remember this from Sam Darnold with the Vikings. Like the Detroit Lions had 15 wins, the Vikings had 14 wins, the Packers had a bunch of wins as well, and they all got dumped out the playoffs really quickly. And yet this year, the NFC West is like continuing along. It almost feels as if the matchup, if you were a neutral, that you'd want to see is Seahawks Rams in the NFC Championship game. But it's never that easy. It don't work that way. I mean, and it's an unpredictable season. Yeah. And I also hope something's not going to bite me on the arse, Robbie, because I've been kind of saying for a while the Seahawks have managed to avoid losing the game that you expect them to win. Like their 3 losses were against the Niners, in a full-strength Niners, a near enough, strong enough Tampa Bay team to cause you problems when they were at the peak of their powers, and you've lost to the Rams on the road. I think if you lose to this Niners team next week with all the injuries they've got, that would classify as a game you lost that you would expect to win.
Yeah.
And I've been saying they avoided that. That was job done. Maybe not after all. You've got to win this one as well next week to avoid that.
Yeah. Those rules don't apply in the playoffs. You just have to win, period.
Who scares you for the Niners?
Kyle Shanahan. That's it, really.
I'm just looking at the stats. So Brock Purdy, 18 of 31, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions today. Juwan Jennings obviously had that touchdown as well. Christian McCaffrey, 48 yards on 15 carries. They used Demarcus Robinson as their leading receiver, 6 catches, 111 yards and a touchdown. That did include a 61-yard reception, though. McCaffrey had a couple of touchdowns for 66 yards, so they managed to get him involved. I didn't feel that. I forgot that he'd got 2 touchdowns in the game. I didn't feel McCaffrey in that game, but in the end, he's had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, so he has been involved. And then defensively, Keon White had a sack. Nobody else had a sack. They collected a bunch of TFLs from their linebackers and their edge players, but they run the quarterback a lot, Philadelphia, and Saquon was getting hammered in the backfield an awful lot. I felt like they were run blitzing a lot. I wonder if they'll do that against Seattle as well next week to try and stymie some of that. So we'll see. A couple more super chats will come in. Josh says, thoughts on no Seattle defensive players on the first team All-Pro? Outrageous, in my opinion. Well, let's have a look. So the first team All-Pro NFL, because the part that it's okay, Robbie, saying it's not acceptable that they're not on the All-Pro list, but then you have to have a look who's actually there, don't you? And see if they have had better seasons. So the defense, I'll read it to you and you tell me. So the first team edge rushers are Myles Garrett, Will Anderson, and Micah Parsons. There's no argument there, is there? There's no Seahawk who should be ahead of them. The interior linemen are Zach Allen and Jeffrey Simmons. Leonard Williams is the second team. I think you can make an argument there that Leonard Williams should be ahead of those 2 players. Zach Allen's a very good player. He's had a good season. Jeffrey Simmons, I'm not convinced has had the kind of season where he should be above Leonard Williams there. That seems a bit name recognition-y to me. In fact, I think you could argue that Leonard Williams and Cameron Hayward, who were the 2 second-team players, should be the first-team players.
First team. Yeah, I could see that.
At linebacker, Jack Campbell and Jordan Brooks are first-team All-Pro. Devin Lloyd and Ernest Jones are second-team.
Good old Jordan Brooks. Good for him.
I know. I mean, I think Ernest Jones had something like 5 interceptions, didn't he, this season? Yeah. And he's played an integral role on a superb defense. And Devin Lloyd's been fantastic as well. So I think, again, you could make an argument there that Devin Lloyd and Ernest Jones should be the first team All-Pros. Not Jack. I mean, I've not studied Jack Campbell that much. I know there are people online who think Jordan Brooks has had a great year. But I think you could definitely make an argument then that Leonard Williams and Ernest Jones should have been in the first team. At cornerback, Derek Stingley and Quinyon Mitchell. Devon Witherspoon was a second team with Patrick Surtain. I don't think you can argue with that, Robbie. I don't think necessarily that Devon Witherspoon's played better than Derek Stingley and Quinyon Mitchell this year. I don't have any complaints.
No. Yeah, nothing there.
Slot cornerback, Cooper DeJean with Derwin James as the reserve. Again, no issue there. I don't think you can argue that Nicky Manwari has been, I mean, he's had a good rookie year, but he's not been all pro level. And then at safety, Kyle Hamilton and Kevin Byard were the all pros. Second team, Xavier McKinney, Jesse Bates, and Talanoa Hufanga, blog favorite. So I think the two there really are probably Williams and Ernest Jones, aren't they? There are a lot of players who deserve recognition. DeMarcus Lawrence, Byron Murphy, Nicky Manwari. You know, there's other players, Robert, that you could mention there, but all pro, first team all pro, not necessarily. I think it's Williams and Ernest Jones, aren't they? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, and you said
you're on mute, man.
Keep just clicking the button too fast. Sorry. I was going to say Lawrence. You could make an argument there just because he's been so good, but maybe not first team all pro though. I mean, he's just been really good for us, and a great piece to the puzzle. Doesn't mean he is necessarily all pro though.
Final super chat from Trey or TRXE. Look, mad respect to the shenanigans and 49ers. Rather amazing, but we are the better team, and they should be stressing us, not the other way around. Yeah, I'm sure. I appreciate the super chat. I'm sure there'll be plenty of stress from their end, Robbie. Although I think they might see this as, if I was a Niners fan, I'd be saying anything's a bonus here. Like when you have that many, if you'd have said to Niners fans, what's your record going to be? And by the way, this player, Bosa, Warner, Kittle, Purdy's going to miss half the season. Run through the list. Trent Williams is going to miss time. What's your record going to be? They probably would have said 6 wins, 5 wins. Less, maybe. Like to win 12 games and then win a playoff game, a 13th game in the playoffs is highly impressive. So I think they take everything as a bit of a bonus. I don't think they'll be stressing too much. I think that's what it is, Robbie, isn't it? Is that we expect to win. We would hope to win. And if you in that place, considering a defeat is terrifying. And I keep equating it back to England. I'm not going to bore everybody with my England football passion. But England have got to 2 finals, the last 2 European Championship finals. And they played like Ukraine in the knockouts, and they would play Denmark in the knockouts, and the Dutch and Slovakia and Switzerland. They're not playing like Spain and France and teams like that, and Italy. And because of that, Robbie, you thought, we have to win. We have to win this game. It'll be a massive missed opportunity if you don't win. And it creates extra stress. Because if you're playing a top team, you can kind of go, well, we didn't expect to beat them. They're a top team. Or we expected it could go either way. When you are expecting to win, it makes it more stressful. I think this will be potentially more stressful this weekend than the Rams because you will expect to win. But there's that bit in the back of your mind that thinks the Niners know how to beat the Seahawks. They've done it in the past. They did it in week 1, albeit with a healthier team. I mean, when's the last time Seattle beat San Francisco in Seattle? Like 2021?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
I think I'm going to have a look now because Seahawks San Francisco. So they obviously won in Santa Clara this year and last year. Before that, their last win was December 2021. So it's been 4 years since the Seahawks have actually beaten the Niners.
Good. We're due. We're due for it then. We're due for it.
I hope so.
I'm not sure. Really I'm not going to stress about it. I think this, we're going to go and I'm going to go and you're going to stay home and it's going to be great. We're going to win.
I really hope so. I really do hope so. Because if they do, and we can look forward to an NFC Championship game, and they've got to win 2 home games to get to the Super Bowl. That's it. Robbie, really appreciate your time. I remember I suggested we do half an hour. We've done a whole hour, so I appreciate keeping you on for as long as you did. Big thank you to everybody who sent super chats in. Always massively appreciate that, and the numbers as well. It's not a game reaction, but we thought we'd jump on and do something. Huge numbers, so really appreciate everybody for doing that. If I could ask a quick favor of you, subscribe to the channel, because the more people who are subscribing, the more sort of temptation there is to do more of these videos as this playoff run continues, and hopefully it is going to be an extended playoff run. So please do subscribe, like the video. After the video is finished, log off, go onto your as soon as it's finished. That is, you can't do this until the stream's finished. Go onto your tablets, go onto your phones, hype this video, and get it out there onto more eyes. Leave a comment in the comment section if you wouldn't mind. SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis on everything to do with the Seahawks and the draft. And then a final quick reminder, Bump and Stacey on, if you listen on the radio, midday on Tuesday. I'll put that on YouTube as well, and you can watch that back on replay if you want to. Seahawks Collective on Tuesday, 5 p.m. Seattle time, and then on Wednesday with Puck Sports as well. I think I've read everything that I need to off the top of my head, Robbie. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Only to say, again, a big thank you to everybody else for joining in today. Big thank you to Robbie Williams. Enjoy the rest of this playoff weekend. Until next time, bye for now.